This is Perp back with another video, and I finally caught up with One Piece, and it only took me about 46 days. I started watching One Piece May 23rd, and I finished catching up to all of One Piece right around like July 8th. So just in time for them to kind of get ready for Gear 5 and, getting to the final arc of One Piece. Now, this has been an interesting kind of journey because I was definitely one of those people that were shitting on One Piece at one point, even trolling. But I always said that I'm going to eventually watch it. I just like to have fun and poke fun at One Piece. And now, kind of watching One Piece in its entirety, I have a completely different perspective and outlook on this series. And I'm going to do my best to kind of break down all of my thoughts of One Piece. So I'm going to split this up into two parts, talking about the pre-time skip stuff and the post-time skip stuff. Here, we're just going to mainly focus on everything from East Blue to Marineford. Now, there's a lot of things to kind of talk about in depth, which I won't do here. I'm just going to give you my brief, take and just breakdown of what I thought about the first half of One Piece. Starting with the introduction of our main character, Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy. And man, I could see a lot of people, falling off from One Piece very early. A lot of people complain about it not having the best animation. I can say, like, after actually watching it and seeing how the animation has changed with each saga that goes by, each arc, it just progressively gets better and better. One Piece definitely has one of the best animations and most unique animation styles that I have ever seen, especially from the beginning, and that being like late 90s animation, and seeing how far they've come. And Luffy's character is really dope. He very much reminds me of Goku in a sense, but I feel like where the comparisons are different is Luffy actually kind of learns as he goes on. He's still arrogant and he's very obnoxious and has a lot of energy, but I like how he interacts with all the different characters, all the different people that he recruits to be on his pirate crew. Going from Zoro, seeing Zoro's backstory, to Nami, seeing Nami's backstory, to seeing Sanji's backstory, how all these characters have very tragic backstories, and they fit perfectly for what Luffy is trying to accomplish as far as building up this crew. Hell, even the straw hat that he wears has a complete backstory and how that's connected to Shanks, one of his close friends that saved Luffy, after he ate the gum gum fruit from drowning, and Shanks lost an arm because of that. But like I said, what really makes One Piece special is the character development and just how they handle each individual character. Each individual character gets a really well put together backstory, whether it be Sanji with how he got into cooking and him having to deal with starvation, or Nami and just her whole backstory. And I think Nami has the most tragic, but Zoro, being inspired by a childhood friend and why he carries around a specific sword, it makes me really enjoy watching this series. And that's what it's really about, and why you can't just watch like 3 episodes of One Piece and think that you can understand, exactly what's going on, because all of East Blue is really just building up that core Straw Hat group until they get into the Grand Line, which the Grand Line in just the world is just massive in One Piece, where we start off in East Blue and then we make our way to the Grand Line, which is that dark blue line right there. And the only way to get into that part of the world is through Reverse Mountain, and it can kind of take you on different types of directions, but you know, you go from left to right, and they end up pretty much on the other side with the New World, which we're going to talk about the second half of the Grand Line in the post-time skip stuff. But all these little islands have people and have different types of walks of life, and that's why I really enjoy about watching One Piece as well, from the character development to just how different each island is and how it operates and whatnot. And this is where we meet some of the other Straw Hats, like Nico Robin and Alabasta, and then, you know, we got Chopper, and we also have Brook. He was in Thriller Bark and stuff like that. And each character that Luffy recruits for his team is very crucial and very important. You got somebody like Nico Robin, that she's able to decipher these polyglyphs. These are these things that are going to kind of give you information about the world. And there's some other polyglyphs that are more important as far as finding out exactly where the One Piece is, or at least where the last island is to find the One Piece. So you got Chopper, he's a doctor. Sanji, he's a cook, you know, and they show you the importance of all these individual characters, especially like somebody like Nami. Another thing about the Grand Line, though I know I'm going all over the place, is that things operate differently, where, you know, normal stuff outside of the Grand Line doesn't work. Like a normal compass will not work. You know, you need a special type of compass. You kind of have to use a different way of navigating in a way, and there's other things in the Grand Line that are very dangerous outside of just the people that use devil fruits and stuff like that. That's another thing that's really dope, is just the explanation of devil fruits and just how they vary and how different they are, and how they're almost looked at as myths in some parts of the world, because not everybody knows about devil fruits, and some people don't know exactly how they work, how many can you eat. I'll talk about that in a little bit with a specific character, but let's dive into some of these villains or antagonists that, you know, the Straw Hats always come across throughout, from East Blue to Marineford. Buggy being one of the first. You know, I know Velveeta, but Buggy is a very interesting character, how he eats the chop fruit, so Swords really can't do nothing. He can dislocate his body all the way any way he wants. And the fact that he has a past with Shanks, and he used to be a part of the you know, Goldie Rogers' whole crew and stuff like that. Mihawk, he's known as one of the best swordsmen, and also is one of Zoro's main drives on what he wants to accomplish. He wants to be able to beat somebody like Mihawk or take that title. You know, you got Crocodile, he's one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Etno, or how you pronounce his name, from Skypiea. He thought he's pretty much a god, you know, in a sense, where his whole devil fruit is electricity. And I like that whole fight he has with Luffy, knowing that Luffy's made out of rubber. So that goes back to saying that there's some devil fruits, you know, devil fruit users, that they'll come across one another and be like, all right, can't really do nothing with Luffy since he's resistant to lightning. I can still stab him though. So it's like interesting things like that. But let's talk about these 7 warlords, because this was interesting, and it kind of gives you a basis of the power scaling earlier on just how powerful individual characters are in this world. while also expanding on the bigger grand story as far as what the world government is doing. Now, the 7 warlords of the sea are pirates that are sanctioned by the government, that work under the government. They're protected and whatnot. And you have some very powerful people. Some of them are kind of weak, in my opinion. They kind of rotate throughout different people that want to take the job. Some people use it for their benefits. Specific characters like Blackbeard, we'll get into that. But the first one that we kind of see is Mihawk, and we see how dominant he is, and then Crocodile, seeing how strong he is at that point, and kind of just going through all these different warlords. But definitely the most powerful one is Doflamingo, or Dolphy, which I'll get into his character when we get to the post-time skip stuff, because they kind of tease him throughout the pre-time skip stuff, but he plays a much bigger role in the post-time skip stuff. The other group of antagonists that we get when we get to Etni's lobby, or like Water 7 around that time, is the CP9 and what is it, Centerpool or something like that. I don't know. They're kind of like their assassin, like the world's government's assassins and stuff like that. They're not necessarily pirates and anything. They're just hired hitters and stuff like that, and they're pretty much there to clean up certain mess that's left by either warlords or just, they're just there to work for the government. These are some interesting motherfuckers. Like Rob Lucci and Luffy's fight was really dope. I thought that was really cool, and seeing Luffy do his first transformation, the second gear 2, which was really dope. Then we get introduced to somebody that ends up joining the Straw Hats, Frankie, and how his role is very pivotal too, where he's like this cyborg and whatnot. He helps them get a new ship, because there was a whole thing between Usopp and Luffy over the Going Merry, and that was a great fucking episode where Usopp and Luffy had to fight one another, and how loyal Usopp was just to the Going Merry, and finding out the Going Merry had its own kind of its own kind of being, and them having to say goodbye to the Going Merry, and how we get to the Sunny later down the line. That was really dope. And just everything building up to Marineford was just perfect, bro. Just from Water 7 all the way up to, you know what I'm saying, Marineford, and knowing that Luffy has a brother, and how he would go to hell and back to save him from execution, seeing his friends pretty much literally get wiped away, having to go to Marineford pretty much by himself and fight alongside Whitebeard, and how Whitebeard was going against the Navy and stuff like that. And that shit was so crazy. And we get introduced to the worst generation, that being Luffy, Kid, and Law. They're like the newer characters. We'll talk about that in the post-time skip stuff. There's a lot to break down in all of these scenes, but I just want to keep it brief. Now, let's talk about Blackbeard, because I feel like this is the most fascinating way to build up a big bad. And man, I love how they're just slow cooking Blackbeard's story, where, they meet each other. Blackbeard and Luffy meet each other in like episode 147, before Luffy goes to the Skypiea. And Ace the whole time is looking for Blackbeard. Luffy doesn't know who Blackbeard is, and he didn't know that he came across him. And I liked how they set that whole thing up, where because of the actions of Blackbeard is the reason why really Ace ends up dying. You know what I'm saying? There's some more things to it. You could say, yeah, Ace kind of did that to himself, but that aside, the fact that Blackbeard made himself a warlord just so he can get close enough to Whitebeard after his death to take his devil fruit. Now he has 2 devil fruits is just insane to me, because a lot of people will say throughout the whole entire series that if you eat 2 devil fruits you might die. There's all these kind of speculations and predictions on exactly what devil fruits are. Like, you might become a devil fruit the more that you use it, yada yada yada. But I just like the way that they're building up Blackbeard's character to be this like unstoppable force. And when you get to see his bounty, it's insane. It's just like, man, he just already is hitting all these heights and feats and stuff. So they're really building up his character. I'm hoping that it really delivers going into whatever they plan to do with Blackbeard's character in the final arc. Overall, though, this first half of One Piece was incredible. I love the world building, the character development, how every character outside of Luffy pretty much gets a backstory. The music is really on point, from where it switches from something suspenseful and intense to something more calming or sad. I just like all the interactions that the Straw Hats have with one another, and just how they're this one big ass dysfunctional family. They're all flawed, and I liked how Luffy just shows his leadership by allowing his crew to kind of, figure things out on their own, while also watching Luffy grow as a character. Yes, all he does is eat and fight, but he also cares about everybody's individual goal, whether it be Zoro wanting to be the best swordsman in the world, Nami wanting to be the best navigator that she can, or Sanji wanting to see the all blue, Usopp, just wanting to be a brave warrior. It's really dope. And I love the humor within the crew and just throughout the whole entire show, that the humor is very well balanced. It's not too goofy. It does get very goofy at times, but it knows when to kind of really get serious. Sometimes it'll do a good blend of both. And just seeing the characters grow over these different episodes. A lot of the arcs are very long. I don't necessarily have a problem with the pacing of the anime, but watching certain arcs, I can definitely see why people have the issues that they have. Because you'll get a fire arc or a fire like back-to-back arc, and then it'll transition into something like Thriller Bark where it completely goes down, but then it picks it right back up by the end of Thriller Bark. And I don't have too many issues as far as what are the weaker arcs. I might have to kind of do a separate TikTok or a short kind of giving you my breakdown on each individual arc, how I'd rank them. If you want to check out my Straw Hat rankings, though, that's on TikTok. But I'll have part 2, the post-time skip thoughts, right around whenever they get ready to show off Gear 5. So that would be an interesting discussion. I hope I did a good enough job kind of breaking down the post-time skip stuff, because it's a lot of information, but I just wanted to kind of give y'all just a little bit of what I've been thinking about this show so far. But stay tuned. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, follow me on Twitter at perpminded420, and follow me on TikTok at perpminded, and I'll see y'all in the next one.